In the news this week, plenty of leads and still searching. Police dig further into the disappearance of missing 4-year-old girl Cleo Smith.
Also tonight, Mercy Flight Conundrum, how a Perth travel agent helps West Aussies get home before Christmas. A WAMN News exclusive.
Justice for JC, protests demanding accountability after a police officer is cleared of JC's death. And
brick frenzy as Lego's first official store hits Perth. Plus, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Leung and Sarah Smith.
Good evening. It's been 2 weeks since 4-year-old girl Cleo Smith went missing from the Blowholes campsite in Carnarvon, as the mystery of who took Cleo continues to grip Australia.
Although there are plenty of leads coming forward, police are working very hard to eliminate suspects. Reporter Melissa Thorne joins us with an update along with a summary of this week's developments. Melly, what's the latest?
Yes, Ivan and Sarah. Cleo Smith has been missing for more than 2 weeks since the 16th of October, when she vanished from a Carnarvon campsite. Since then, there has been little progress into finding out what happened to her. Earlier in the week, WA Police Commissioner Chris Dawson described the large-scale search for Cleo when asked about what kind of secret technologies were deployed by the federal police in assistance.
Well, obviously it's a big police operation, and in any such operation of this scale, we reach out to police forces not only across Australia but indeed across the world. So the AFP will, like others, assist us with whatever they can. We will accept any opportunity to expand any capability as it is.
He later added that WA Police will welcome any assistance from any police force around the world. Police are exploring the possibility of criminal activity being involved in the case, as it was discovered that Cleo could not have opened the tent herself. Police are currently looking to talk to any individuals who were seen in a vehicle leaving the campsite in the early hours of the morning that Cleo went missing from her family's tent. The 4-year-old's family want her in our arms and said it feels like Cleo has been missing for an eternity.
I just remember thinking, like, how did someone come into that tent and take Cleo? How could someone feel that they could do that to someone? How could someone take a child? And my gut just felt sick.
Cleo's family, however, are now also struggling with a torrent of online abuse for hateful speculation by members of the public. Dr. Catherine Archer, expert in strategic communications and social media, shed some light on social media's role in the search for Cleo Smith. During my interview, she described social media as a double-edged sword for police. How will this use of social media impact the Cleo investigation?
Well, I think it's definitely having an impact. There are people saying terrible things on there, and also, but there are people that might be saying material that might be of use for the investigation. So for the police, it is a great forum for them, and you know, there may be some leads that come out in the Cleo case. But at the same time, as I said, there's going to be some issues around that as well. She said social media has become the village well for the public, with both useful and inappropriate comments at times published online. And it is such a compelling case because everyone cares about a young child and this suddenly going missing. Yet the Carnarvon community have banded together to support the family, with a vigil held at Cleo's school on Thursday night. This was one of several vigils held in candlelight to provide hope to Cleo's classmates and her family's friends in the country town. Superintendent Rod Wild held an update from the Carnarvon Police Station, but it resulted in little new information being revealed to the public. At a press conference concerning defence submarines, the Minister for Police, Paul Papalia, was asked about that morning's update.
They're providing a bit more information, providing, I hope, some comfort to the wider community about the seriousness with which this investigation was treated from day one.
It is now over 2 weeks since Cleo went missing. According to the superintendent, however, the investigation is progressing.
We haven't positively identified the people or person that was driving that car, so again, if they're on that road on the early hours of the Saturday morning, the 16th, travelling back into Carnarvon on the coastal highway would like that person or persons that were in that vehicle to come forward and make themselves known to police.
If you have any information, please call Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000, or you can report the information online. We'll bring you updates during the week as it happens. Ivan?
Melissa Thorne reporting. Melly, thanks for the update.
Every weekend.
Questions have been raised by medical experts on jab passport for kids.
There have been renewed calls for youth curfews as violent crime rises.
Ivan Loom, Sarah Smith and the award-winning WAMN team bring you the exclusive stories and interviews that set the agenda.
I watched live on WAM News.
Plus, Dr. Andrew Miller's expert medical comment.
We don't want to see large numbers of children admitted to hospital because it's going to put enormous pressure.
Sunday evening news and WP, every Sunday night after 6:30 on WAMN News, Perth's alternative voice.
Come home now, you can still make it before Christmas. That's the message a local travel agent is telling West Aussies who want to return home from overseas to celebrate this festive season. Complex paperwork in WA's hard border continues to pose major challenges for returning citizens despite the increase of mercy flights from the federal government. Auswell Travel's General Manager Eric Lee gave us an exclusive insight into the situation's complexity as he and his agency are doing everything they can to help West Aussies return home as soon as possible. He joined me exclusively to discuss the challenges and the difficulties. Eric Lee, thanks for your time. You and your agency has done a lot to help Western Australians return home from overseas. What are the complex procedures and red tape you must maneuver so they can come home before Christmas?
Depending on the customer where they're flying from, there's a lot of challenges in between, not just Australian procedure that we have to go through. Say I've got an example where a customer coming from South America, and they have to run through a few things. They've got to travel up to North America to go through all the North America embassy procedure, as well as going via South America like Argentina. They've got to run through the embassy procedure as well before ending up in Australia. So there's a bit of challenge.
So what are the most challenging bits you have to go through as an agent?
More likely to be time management because all the people that they go through all the embassy requirement, they have to run through individual application, waiting for the approval in order to get on to the next steps and get on to flight management. There's quite intense work involved. So without travel agency, they will be struggle to manage to get onto this repatriation flight.
The East Coast is opening up, but WA's hard border remains closed. So what does it mean for travel agents like you who is trying to help West Aussies to come home before Christmas?
It is a very confusing exercise, to be honest. Eastern states like New South Wales and Victoria are reopening. Australians are freely to go out with their fully vaccinated history. If they're fully vaccinated, they are free to travel out, and even coming back to New South Wales or Victoria are quarantine free. But to Western Australia is totally different story. We are still waiting for the state government for further announcement to see if they would be able to relax the restriction a little bit further. Hopefully, sometime early next year, we will have a different change of the policy. After the Argentina flight back to Darwin, the next one will be on the 7th, on the 8th, will be organized by Singapore Airlines, and towards to the end of the month, like 20th or 27th of November, I think there are a total of 4 repatriation flights being announced in November. I think more repatriation flights will be required if the state border are still remain closed.
Finally, what do you have to say to Western Australians who are still overseas considering to come home?
Yes, I think there will still going to be a few more repatriation flights available over the next few weeks before Christmas. So you can contact your local travel agents to give you a hand on that.
Eric, I know you've been working very hard behind the scenes to help many Western Australians come home. I'm sure the viewers will appreciate your work. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Family and friends of Aboriginal mother JC are demanding justice as protesters rallied against the acquittal of a police officer involved in her 2019 death. They want police accountability, claiming there's been no change 30 years after the Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody. Nelson Liu reports.
To you all standing here today, it's time to unite. United we stand.
Chants outside Parliament for an Indigenous woman shot by police.
There's one of anger, frustration, disappointment, lack of political will.
Protesters fighting for JC over a death that could have been avoided.
Here today's people's come out in solidarity. They've shown the respect.
In a rally marred by a confrontation with police, hundreds of protesters stood together for the Yamachi woman fatally shot by a police officer in Geraldton in 2019. The constable was acquitted over her death a week ago after becoming the first officer to face a murder charge for a death in custody in 93 years.
No accountability, there's no culpability, no one's been convicted of a crime, and it makes us really upset and really disillusioned.
JC had been suffering from poor mental health and was released from prison just weeks before her death. She had also been wanting a home.
There's a number of failures. It's not just with the court system, it's not just with the police officer that particular day.
Activists say the state government has failed her. Protesters want justice for JC, a life they say mattered, but their fight is even bigger for the entire Indigenous population. Protesters painted red handprints on Parliament's front steps in what they say is blood on state government hands. They say Indigenous people still face issues that aren't being resolved. It includes deaths in custody, with at least 450 Aboriginal people dying since the Deaths in Custody Royal Commission in 1991.
10,000 people, black, white and brown, that took their lives to suicide right across this nation. Housing is a crisis, children being removed.
Meanwhile, WA police are providing support to the constable involved, who plans to return to the force.
He's been spoken to. We will make that assessment. That's yet to be completed.
They also say they're supporting JC's family and Indigenous community.
There are broad issues there that we will continue to work very closely with Aboriginal people.
Nelson Liu, WAMN News.
WA has new border restrictions, with all approved interstate travellers entering must be fully jabbed from Friday 5th of November for medium to extreme risk states and 15th of November for low risk states. These changes are based on the latest health advice. Children aged 12 years or under and people with recognised medical conditions are exempted. There are also additional requirements for New South Wales and Victoria arrivals, with hotel quarantine at a state facility for 14 days at their expense, while travellers from ACT will also be required to self-quarantine at a suitable premise for 14 days, present for initial COVID-19 test within 48 hours. All travellers who are subjected to new requirements will need their vaccination proof ready as part of the G2G application and use.
80 homes will be built across Western Australia as part of a pilot modular social housing scheme. The announcement serves as the beginning of a program which will see more than 200 homes delivered via the modular build program in high demand areas. 15 of the modular homes are headed for regional Australia, with 5 set for South Hedland, 4 each in Albany and Tom Price, and 2 in Laverton. These are among the 275 social homes to be delivered in regional areas over the next 2 years.
We can pump out, we can get out modular homes far quicker in the current heated construction market than double brick homes. And that is our priority, is that we want to get modular homes out. We want to deliver social homes out as fast as possible.
Mark McGowan is urging WA parents to do their bit and get their kids vaccinated as COVID deaths continue across the nation. The state government is encouraging parents to turn in signed consent forms of the school COVID-19 vaccination plan. The rollout targets secondary schools, residential colleges, agriculture colleges and education support schools. With Victoria recording 25 COVID deaths in one day this week, Mark McGowan said consent forms needed to be signed to keep WA school students safe.
Really need that over 12 to 16 group to get vaccinated as soon as possible. We're doing everything we can to get the vaccines into schools and allow for students to be bused to vaccination clinics as well.
Year 6 students from North Parmelia Primary School are teaming up with Kwinana City Council and artist Katie Elsgood on an art exhibition celebrating the school's 50th year. It features 11 wooden sculptures portraying local people, landmarks and events, and students worked closely with Miss Elsgood during their school term. Local personalities including Mr Angus Wally and Mayor Carol Adams were featured among the artworks. Ms Adams says it was an honour to be featured.
He was known as the larger-than-life presenter in front of the camera and behind the microphone for the ABC in Perth. Russell Woolf had a huge presence for the national broadcaster as well as his foray into politics. But tragedy struck this week when he died suddenly overnight on Tuesday. Russell is a much-loved and respected broadcaster among Western Australians, a man with a great sense of humour.
I don't know if we have to get out and kiss babies, Ivan, but if you lean forward, I'll give you a little peck on the forehead. But, we'll do as much as we can on a tight budget. I'm going to jump on my Vespa on election day and try and get around to as many booths as I can, and we'll see how we go.
His sudden death has shocked many within the community and the media industry. With his great sense of humour and kindness, he's loved by many and he will be sorely missed by everyone. And as you can see, he's such a humorous and lovable gentleman. You can see the full version of that interview right now on our social media pages. The link is in the description.
Russell was a real giant of the Perth broadcasting scene and he will be deeply missed. We'll recap this week's top stories again in just a moment.
But right now, here's Nelson with Western Perspective and with a bit of a lighter note about Lego. Nelson, build away.
Thanks, Ivan and Sarah. Hello and welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Nelson Liu. Well, enthusiasts for the coloured little building block Lego are in for a treat, with Perth's first Lego store opening in Karrinyup. The store opened its doors for the first time on Thursday morning, renewing the passion among Perth fans. Steve Anderson gets building in this report.
New and old fans alike of the Danish toy building blocks, known as Lego, are lining up around the block to get into a Lego-only store. The first Lego store in Western Australia opened at Karrinyup Shopping Centre to great success, with adults and kids queuing up to get in.
It has been non-stop. The line has been very, very long all day. Even the line inside the store to get to the registers has been crazy. So lots of fans here ready to get their first big purchases of sets that they haven't seen elsewhere.
The store gives Lego fans exclusive access to hard-to-find sets not available at other retailers, as well as containing a Build-A-Mini station and a Pick-A-Brick wall. From mini creative displays to large-size figurines, block by block, part by part, created as a feast for the eyes.
Different reasons why you should come to the store. We've got our Brickman built Lego models, so that's a 75,000 piece Lego model of a local with quokkas over there. That's a great photo opportunity for guests. There's also the mosaic of Perth City, so there's lots of photo opportunities, lots of unique experiences they can have, from building their own minifigure to stacking their own cups.
It seems that any little and not so little Lego fans in Perth have a must-stop destination to explore into the future, giving Lego fans the ability to create whatever they want with endless possibilities.
And now, here's AMA WA spokesperson Dr Andrew Miller with this week's COVID-19 update and commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. Just want to recap one really fundamental problem that we've had since the start of this pandemic, which has been the nature of airborne spread. So this virus doesn't spread through droplets. It's not safe to be 1.5 metres away from anyone who's breathing out COVID virus. And we've just seen the Sydney gym where 15 people managed to get it by exercising in the same place. Why is that? Well, because you're in a confined space. When you exercise, you breathe out about 10 times more air than you normally would. You do it quite forcefully. It goes at high volume. You can imagine it mixes into the space. And so, naturally enough, with an airborne virus, it's more likely to catch it. And then you see a puzzled gym owner standing out the front saying, but I cleaned everything like they told me to. Well, his problem is that they're still running on guidelines in some places that pretend that this is a droplet spread disease and ignore the fact that it's airborne. That was the problem, if you'll recall, that we had with the hotel quarantine spreading from room to room. And it was the problem all the healthcare workers in Victoria had last year when 800 of them got infected because they weren't wearing the right mask to prevent a virus that spreads like cigarette smoke. So this is the problem we're now seeing in schools over east, where they've sent them all packing back to school, and of course parents are greatly relieved because it's a very hard thing to do, lockdown with kids. But if you're going to do that, what's the problem? Well, airborne spread's your problem, and if you don't have well-ventilated classrooms that change the air over frequently, and you don't have masks on, or you could have a HEPA filter in there also, which are very good at removing the virus from the air. If you don't have any of those things, just put them in a stuffy classroom. What's going to happen? Well, it's going to spread from child to child very rapidly, and although we know that most children don't die of COVID, only about 1 in 10,000 who test positive will die, around about 1% of them do end up in hospital, and some of those get very sick indeed and end up in intensive care. And then there's a proportion, there's an argument about how much that is, but it's still a significant proportion, whether it's 2 or 5 or 10% of them are still having symptoms 3 months later, which are interfering with their schooling, with playing sport and so on, and we don't know how long those symptoms are going to go on for. Does that make sense? Well, yes, it does, because this is a virus that causes inflammation in the brain and the liver and the heart and the lungs and the kidneys and the reproductive system. We know that it's a very nasty beast. One way we can tell is the fact that it kills a lot of older people who don't have quite the same immune system as the young kids do to fight it off. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to prevent airborne spread as well as vaccinate. We can't do one or the other. We have to do both. And that's Western Australia's future, is going to be making sure that we prevent airborne spread even after vaccination, so that those who are vulnerable, like all the kids under 12, hopefully we'll get a vaccine for them soon, like they're getting in California this week and across the rest of the US. But we have to protect those young kids as well as all the people on chemo or have had organ transplants, as well as little babies. So remember, it's airborne spread, you've got to get vaccinated, and you're going to need your booster dose very soon if you're 6 months past your last dose of vaccine. Thanks for your time.
That was Dr. Andrew Miller. And that's all for WP this week. We'll be back again next time, but for now, it's back to you, Ivan and Sarah.
Thanks, Nelson. And here's Leo with what's coming up on 6 News tonight.
Thanks, guys. Today on 6 News, breaking news: students get ready to return to the classroom full-time in Melbourne amid large crowds at retail stores right across Victoria. Plus, ICAC set to resume after phone calls made between ex-New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian and disgraced former MP Darren Maguire. We'll recap the key developments and let you know what to expect tomorrow morning. And the cleanup continues after reports of ongoing power issues after heavy rain, thunder, lightning and especially wind hit Victoria and South Australia tonight. We've got new footage of the damage and a look at the conditions expected nationwide. You can see full details on those stories and plenty more by going to our YouTube channel. Just search 6 News Australia to find us, or our new look website, 6newsau.com. For now though, guys, it's back to you.
Thanks, Leo, and that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
From Sarah and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for stopping by.